Hey everybody, this is Talkative Carl back again for the wrap up of the Nolan Batman trilogy, The Dark Knight Rises. I might as well go ahead through the other Batman live action films, the Burton and the Schumacher, in the next coming weeks. Uh, so yeah, let's just get right to it. Now, don't get me wrong, I love this film. There's a lot to love about this film. Dark Knight Rises, but with all intents and purposes, is like a nice ish send off of the Nolan trilogy. Now, of course, I say ish because Nolan did not necessarily want to make any more Batman films, but with the studio kind of like forcing his hand, so he decides, okay, I'm gonna make this like a nice wrap up as I possibly can, so that way, the way it ends, I won't be forced to be called back again to make any more of these things. And by and large, I think he was successful, right? And I do see his point because he wants to make other films. He doesn't want to be tied down to just making Batman for the rest of his career, uh, despite how good he is. And I can see that he can easily get like burnt out because unless you really love the character and it's like your dream to make movies about this character, uh, you would eventually get bored, and that would probably affect your work and the quality, and you might end up getting another Batman Robin on your hands. But uh, you know, by this point in the movie, 8 years has passed apparently since Batman was last seen during the events of The Dark Knight. Right off the bat, this was like an issue for me and a lot of people, is that you mean to tell me that throughout this kind of gap, even if, let's say, he kind of like waned off a Batman little by little, each week until he eventually just stopped altogether, and of course there's like the Dent Act that kept a lot of criminals that Harvey locked up in prison without parole under false pretenses, which eats up Gordon, partway through this movie. You mean to tell me that there's no crime at all beyond mobsters and crazies like Scarecrow and Joker that you would not feel? I'm speaking on the fact that I know what I know of Batman throughout so many years reading his comics, that knowing that individual, and it's like him, he if you follow the continuity in like the Batman the animated series, he doesn't stop. He would not stop being Batman until the point in like the Batman Begins. I mean, not Batman Begins, Batman Beyond, where he's like gotten so old to the point where it's like he could not physically do the job anymore. He literally had to like spoiler alert, rely on picking up a criminal's weapon off the ground just from being like killed himself, because he's like, just weathered. So beyond that, you know, even if like he wants, okay, like, Harvey did the bulk of the work, we need to keep these criminals safe. They don't. I've been working towards not needing to have Batman on the streets anymore myself. So he just found his little way out. But it's just that kind of like mindset, is knowing Bruce Wayne will be hard to break. But anyway, 8 years has passed. They're celebrating the Dent Act, and and then the damnation of Batman altogether. So pretty much like crime is so low that you know there's no corruption in the police system. You know, the police officers, like by and large, police officers and the good citizens of Gotham can like walk the streets safely. They can like, go about their day without any trouble from like clown terrorists or Scarecrow toxins and anybody blowing up the city water supply kind of thing. You get the introduction of Selena Kyle stealing Bruce Wayne's mother's pearls out of a safe that's supposed to be uncrackable, but of course we know Catwoman, she can pretty much break into anything she wants. She's that skilled. But there's stuff that I like Anne Hathaway in, but I never liked the idea of her being cast as Catwoman. She doesn't appear to be like a Catwoman to me. Well, she's more of a Catwoman than Halle Berry, to be honest with you. But it's just that, I don't know. I was never for it. I don't think that was personally to me, I don't think that was good casting on Nolan's part. I'm sorry. I mean, like Eartha Kitt, Michelle Pfeiffer, you know, they were perfect casting for a live action Catwoman, and the new one in the Matt Reeves Batman movie. I mean, I haven't seen much because I haven't seen the movie yet. By the time this video is out, the movie hasn't came out yet. I'm a little bit more curious about how that piqued my interest, but I never was interested in seeing like the portrayal of Catwoman through Anne Hathaway's eyes. It's not like she did a terrible job. It's just like it didn't jive well with me. It could have been a whole. She was just a it thing at the time, because I'm pretty sure prior to the announcement of Dark Knight Rises, she was in like a good handful of things. So she was the it girl at the time. So why not cast Anne Hathaway as Catwoman? But and then just like her interruption, she dropped the facade like she acting like an innocent woman. She's like, oh, nobody told me it wasn't crackable. It's like, what are you trying to do? What are you trying to do? What are you trying to help? Somebody in the comments help me trying to understand that what she was trying to go with. Like sassiness, maybe, yeah, but just it was like, yeah, it rubbed me the wrong way. It's not like that is not, like I said, I just don't picture Anne Hathaway. Anyway, at this point, Bruce Wayne's like kind of like a recluse. He's, at this point where it's like, because now that he's not constantly like, working out and constantly being out there, beating up criminals, and he's not holding his body like he, usually do. Hey, Ash. But at this point, he's kind of like he's on crutches, and he's got like, the issue with the cartilage in his bones, and it's like, there's a lot of, he's getting from a doctor. It's like there's a lot of trauma is starting to spring up from, physical trauma, springing up from his bodies with all his activities from being Batman. It's like, certain like, they mentioned something like, stuff with his like, bruises or some kind of damage to the skull area, the I think lack of cartilage, in his bones, and just like they give like a rundown, and it's like, it's starting to come back at him, all the fighting all these criminals and getting banged up as he was. It just like, at this point it's kind of like you can see it's like he's really like in not the best of shape right now. And Dark Knight Rises pretty much like, feeding off of the storylines of, No Man's Land, Dark Knight Returns, and most especially Nightfall, with, the introduction of Bane. And Tom Hardy's Bane is phenomenal. People still like do the Bane voice. Like, you merely adopted the darkness. I was born in it, molded by it. And it's like, even in the Harley Quinn TV show, you got like an actor who does the Bane voice from The Dark Knight, because it's like Tom Hardy made that just so iconic at this point. It was funny at first, but it's just now it's like a thing. And it's like, of course, he's supposed to be like a South American luchador type of speaking accent, which is fine. But whenever somebody try to do the Bane voice, I'm not sure like anybody who's doing like Bane in like a TV series or what have you. I'm not sure if the casting director would usually ask like, you can do like the luchador thing, but can you do this, or do they? Because I really want to know if casting direct, because I look over casting director sheets and stuff like that, and they usually go ask a person like and make this character like a Yoda speaking sound kind of situation. But do certain casting directors who wants to a Bane character in their show, I kind of feel like if it's like an in thing, they're gonna want people to try to imitate the Tom Hardy Bane voice, or is there like a select people who trying to avoid that because everybody's doing it? I like how they didn't make Bane an idiot. Yeah, that was another thing I was about to bring up, because like unlike Batman and Robin, which I will eventually do a review of, down the line when I do the other Batman films. This one, it's like, because obviously it was in there. It was obvious for everybody's mind, because the only other time we get Bane in a live action anything was in the Batman and Robin movie, and that was not portrayed good at all. And it's like, when I was a little kid, when I saw that, I mean, of course, I watched the animated series Batman, and I seen Bane in that. Of course, I did not consider that to be actual Bane, because me being a little kid, I kind of thought like, okay, their portrayal in a movie would be like the actual portrayal. So I always had the mindset, okay, Bane's an idiot, or at least whatever. But I'm pretty sure it was in their mindset at the time when they announced Dark Knight Rises, and they'll have Bane in there, and everybody was worrying that, oh please God, don't make him be like an idiot like in Batman and Robin. And like, it did a complete 180, and I think definitely needed, because Bane he's not just a big bulky bruiser, he's a strategist, and like he's genius. He's like one of the few handful of people that found out eventually Batman's secret identity with just a short time period. Check out my Batman or Arkham Origins video game play, and like you get to see like Bane in that, who is phenomenal in that one. And it's like, you get, obviously this is not like it's kind of like more reminiscent of the animated series Bane a bit, with the South American accent and just the sheer strategic mindset, and the complete dominance over his crew. Because in this movie, it's like, people are willing to die for him. You can just in the opening with the airplane scene, and it's like, like, perhaps he wants to know why somebody would shoot a man after tossing him out of a plane. No one cares who I was until I put on the mask. Like, well, and then you got like Littlefinger. I forgot Littlefinger was that little FBI agent, I guess. And it's like if I take that off of you, would it hurt? I'm extremely powerful. It's like, God, I love that voice. That was like a brilliant choice. I don't know if it was Christopher Nolan who came up with that idea for that voice, or was it Tom Hardy. Either way, brilliant decision on that part of the voice, because now it's cemented in like canon, like it's like the most iconic voices in like pop culture history. So yeah, where was I? You get an introduction of like Officer Blake, and it could have been like Officer Tim Drake or another. Because this is full spoilers. I'm just gonna cut to the chase about Officer Blake, played by Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and I love Joseph Gordon-Levitt. And it took me a long time before I realized it's the same kid from Angels in the Outfield, and it took me years before I even come to that conclusion. I think I realized that after a few years ago rewatching Angels in the Outfield, and it dawned on me like, that's Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I didn't know that was that kid this whole time. But he changed his name from Robin to Officer Blake. It's like people wanted, I get, because people was harping on Christopher Nolan to add Robin into this. He didn't want to do Robin, so he kind of shoehorn in at the last minute as Officer Blake being, Robin. It's never specified if it's Dick Grayson or Tim Drake. This is like a little bit before like Damian Wayne was like a thing. Obviously he wasn't Jason Todd. So it's either like, since he was the first one, you would think he would be like Dick Grayson, but he has no affiliation with the circus or any hint to the circus. So by and large, he could easily be Tim Drake because he's a police officer, then later detective. And of course, Tim Drake, out of all the Robins, is considered the best detective. And he was one of the other few people that figured out Bruce Wayne was Batman. And he could have just said, like, my name is Officer Tim Drake, and people will just know immediately. And I guess Nolan wanted to leave it at like a huge surprise or like a huge reveal, but I doubt he cared one way or the other how people felt about it. He just wanted to me personally, I feel like he's kind of like, we just want to shut people up. Okay, like, you wanted your Robin, here, let me throw you a Robin and then be done with this. And it's like, God, you could have just called him Officer Tim Drake, because after the way the movie ends, how he was going to be the next Batman and everything like that. That whole Robin as an official legal name was next to Ray Palpatine at the end of Rise of Skywalker, saying like to that old woman, like, my name is Ray Skywalker, or you can just name him Ray Skywalker instead of just keeping your legal name and owning the name for yourself and using it as like a force for good instead of just hiding behind it. It's like those two are part of the worst name drops in movie film. And it's like, that is just piss poor. And it galls me, how they could have easily done it away. At least, like I said, make them just say, my name is Officer Tim Drake. We can just be satisfied with that he's Tim Drake. But anyway, he found out that, Bruce Wayne was Batman, which is another weird thing. Okay, yeah, he's an officer, and he's, got like the kind of, detective intuition, and, but you never seen him do any kind of research or anything like that. He just goes by, like, I could tell by the look on your face that you was hiding. Like, when you came to the orphanage where I was at, you had this girl on your arm and everything like that. But I can looking upon your face, it was just like mine, the way you trying to, hide something. And like, I knew then, it was like, okay. It was told a little bit better, but it's just like the way the script was written, it just, looking back on it, you forget how like certain lines like that, when it's like the way it leads from A to B, does not jive well. It's like, okay, show me your work and don't just say it. But he informs them that because you such a recluse and you are not handling your business, like you used to, the funds that kept like the orphanage I was at afloat, and kept kids who are aging out from being put on the streets. Like one kid has, he finally got out. He realized that this whole project he used to be working on with this renewable energy type of machine, and he doesn't feel like it's ready. It might be turned to a weapon because it's just not at the point where it is safe. And because of that, he kind of mothballed it. The backers of his company are weary. Like they looking for like their returning investments on this project. So you get this Miranda Tate character, later to be found out to be Talia al Ghul, and try to encourage them to come out back in the world, and she's trying to be like supportive and everything like that. And because of Bane coming into Gotham, breaking into Wall Street, kidnapping people, and just wreaking havoc. And later, upon research from Alfred, he found out that he's from the League of Shadows. He was excommunicated because he was too extreme even for the League of Shadows. And it's like, look at the way he's fighting and all this other stuff. It's like, yeah, it was Catwoman did more. I mean, like I said, I was never a big fan of Anne Hathaway in general, but all things considered, I think Christopher Nolan wanted Catwoman to do, because Catwoman, like, by and large, we knew before she got any kind of serious with Batman that she, by and large, looks out for herself, but it usually takes some prodding from Batman, with her conscience to have her do anything nice. Usually she can just happen upon herself when she sees something, that's egregious. She usually does step in. But I like the fact that it kind of like, the way books end this movie upon the way it started, like with the League of Shadows. I guess, I think it was a very appropriate to end with, the League of Shadows, because like in the comics, there's two splinter cells of the League of Shadows. You got because after this movie, the League of Shadows became an actual thing in the comics, because I think I mentioned this in my Batman Begins review on my channel, that it's always been known for years as the League of Assassins, but Nolan can't use the word assassins in the title or in the film, so they changed it to the League of Shadows. So now in the comics, the League of Shadows are an actual offshoot led by Lady Shiva, I think, or one of the other daughters of Ra's al Ghul, to be like a splinter group with different ideologies. But in the film, they're not necessarily ninjas. They're more so like very cultish, like mercenaries, where they will willingly die for Bane. And it's like Bane, like in this, is like ruthless. I mean, Christopher Nolan knows how to make his fucking Batman villains. Cause my God, aside from Talia, Talia's not bad. It's just like she is like low on the totem pole so far as like Nolan Batman villains. Cause Cillian Murphy's Scarecrow is great. Liam Neeson's Ra's al Ghul is great, and like when he's like hallucinating, it's like hallucination of Nolan. I mean not Nolan. Ra's al Ghul while his back is being repaired in the pit. And I might be alone in this, but knowing Ra's al Ghul history like I do, part of me likes to think in my own headcanon that because Batman was in so much pain from his back being broken and is being mended and healed in like very a very old school method, kind of crude. I think that's the word I was looking for. A very crude method of healing his broken back, and he's in so much pain. He's at a point where he's kind of like hallucinating. He feel like he might be hallucinating Ra's al Ghul. But personally, I like to think that Ra's al Ghul was there, just to taunt him. It's like, despite your efforts and your lies, you cannot stop what's going to happen. Gotham City will be destroyed. And it's like Ra's al Ghul, like, he's immortal. And it's like, I know Christopher Nolan didn't want to make an actual Lazarus Pit, is making an actual pit with no kind of mysticism or anything like that. But if the Lazarus Pit is an actual pool of, kind of like a liquid, like kind of a primordial ooze type of thing, where it's, keeps you young for a good century or two before you have to go and take another dip. But it's also, every time you come out, you get a little insaner. But I like to think that, because you never seen Ra's al Ghul's body in the any of the Batman Nolan trilogies. It was never brought up. We only seen like, oh, he's closing his eyes and he's accepting his fate as the train, derails and crashes. But I don't know. Could they, kind of recovered his body and healed it through some mystical ways? They doing like the Batman 89 universe in like a comic book format right now, which I read the first couple of issues, really, really good. I want them to do like something like that for the Nolan Batman movies and make that in an ongoing comic book series. Like doing the exact same thing with like the Batman the Animated Series in the comic book format currently right now, and it's really good too. And it's like any kind of like Batman film that's not continuing anymore, they should turn that into like a comic book format. Somebody should handle that and make it an ongoing series, so we can still live in that universe and see what transpires in the future beyond the films. That's something I really want to read. That is like a good idea. It's like a really good idea, DC came up with. Anyway, the Batman's coming out of retirement. He's grossly underestimating Bane and his forces. It's like, I'll just fight harder and everything like that. And he's showing the bat plane, or the bat as it's called in the film, but you actually get to see the bat plane for the first time, which, if you've seen like the behind the scenes shots in Dark Knight Rises, how they set that up to make everything work, and the armies of criminals and armies and police officers, the way that's all put together, is very well crafted by Nolan. It's very, very good watch if you want to check that out. If you don't have the DVDs of the Nolan trilogies, I'm pretty sure you can look it up on YouTube. It's very well put together. But what was that? When that was another moment where, like, Selina's breaking into Roland Daggett. You get Roland Daggett in this for a brief period. She's breaking in, trying to find this I guess, key card or flash drive or something like that. It's called like the clean slate or something like that. I guess helps erase her criminal record so she can start over. And it's like she's bringing in Daggett's place, who's helping Bane breaking in into Gotham, trying to like hopefully like I guess like kind of help take over, or at least solidify his takeover for Wayne Industries. And you see, like, she have Daggett at gunpoint, and like she's not dealing with ornate like bodyguards or thugs. She's dealing with Bane's forces. And you see Batman coming out of the showers like, she was like, I'll kill him. They know. They just don't care. And then and the score in this is pretty damn good, because like every time Bane, like any Bane related thing in a scene, you hear that chant, like I don't know what it is, like ha 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 ha, and it's like every time I hear that, it's like I just get like that Bane, like that strut, he's just holding on to his jacket, and it's like, and like the way they, the camera shot, because Tom Hardy is slightly shorter than Christian Bale, but they had to frame it in a way to make, Tom Hardy taller than him, because Bane's supposed to be big and imposing, and it's like very good shots there. And it's like, oh my god. And I was about to mention that after they escape from Bane's people on that roof, she talking with Batman, and she disappears off the roof. And like, just like I mentioned in the Dark Knight review, when he's alone with Lucius, and still doing that Batman voice. And it's like, you're alone on the rooftop. Why are you still doing that Batman voice? So that's what it feels like. I was like, why are you literally understanding that you're in front of an audience, so you're just keeping up appearances? Like, why are you still doing that voice? It's weird. But it was after these events where it's like, Bruce and Alfred, finally get into it, mostly because like Alfred's like, he wanted Bruce to get out there and serve Gotham in a different way than he did as Batman, because in his eyes, you did what you had to do to get these criminals off the street. I supported you up to that point, and I would have figured after with the Debt Act and all these mobsters and like criminal elements are locked away and the streets are safe, you would get out there, start a new life, and leave your trauma behind. Well, not leave it behind, but just try to get better and move on with your life. But instead, he went the other direction and just became a recluse and just hide away and like hopeful for something that's not going to come. And he comes clean about, Rachel's note that she chose Harvey over him. And Bruce would discuss it, thinking like, wow, how dare you use Rachel against me, in this way. And it's like I'm using the truth. Because, like, I bury enough Waynes as it is. Because, like, I heard your cries. I literally heard your cries as a baby throughout this house, for a longest time, and watch you grow up to the man you are today. And I refused to bury that kid that already lost his parents and went through so much pain. I refuse to do that. So I'll help you this one time, but then I'm gone. And it's like, there's those rare falling outs between Alfred and Bruce. And you see him plenty of times in like TV shows or comics where it's like, by and large, Alfred has been more than supportive with, Bruce Wayne and his, activity as Batman in the comics, because he dealing with like a lot of like Joker, Riddler, Two-Face, Penguin, all the sorts. In the Nolan trilogy, it's not all that stuff. It's a few extravagant criminal elements, but by and large, it's been mobsters. And you understand Alfred's side of things. It's like, a lot of people just want you, me, Lucius, a lot of people want you to be able to move on with your life, and we want what's best for you. And, so they end up, breaking off. But then after trying to get Selina's help into finding Bane, because they find out that Bane's been hiding away in the sewers, building an army, which, Gordon found out, but he got, ambushed, and he managed to slip away from Bane before something happened to him. But when Bruce comes by and decides to take on Bane, because he grossly underestimating his opponent. He fell in that same trap as he did with the Joker, because he grossly, this is Batman we're talking about. He usually does overestimate his abilities from here and there. And, especially if you're dealing with a new opponent that he has no affiliation with or research or a case built against him to be able to properly handle an individual. Because, anytime you read a comic where Batman first interacted with the Riddler or interacted with the Penguin, they're new to him until like he eventually understands their playbook. He's able to better handle them every time he come across them. But he always underestimates them, thinking like, because like they're supposed to be like the other side of, or they're supposed to be mirror versions of Batman. Riddler is just a mirror version of Batman if he grossly overestimates his intelligence. And Bane is just like, Batman if he's like, takes, fear into a too far. And his, his might and his strategies. And it's like, and all that is just put into this one man who didn't have any kind of human anchors to keep his soul, essentially. He meets up with Bane underground, and this is like a great perfectly shot scene where it's just these two men fighting, no score, no dialogue beyond these two just talking, or at least Bane doing the most of the talking, and it's like Batman, given everything he got, against this individual who's just like a big imposing figure that's been trained by Ra's al Ghul himself, and it's like, you doing all like using distractions, disrupting the lights, using the shadows, and it's like none of it works. You're dealing with an opponent who's been taught by the same person as you, so none of that stuff is going to cut it. And he's bigger than you. And normally, like, just because somebody's bigger than you doesn't necessarily mean anything. But he's been trained. He's not just big for big sake. He's been trained. And, like, both equally trained dudes, but one has bigger muscle mass. And he's been trained in the art of stealth and, distraction and all the other stuff. So, none of Batman's normal tricks isn't cutting it. And he's like getting inside Bruce's head, letting him know it's like, oh, you think darkness is your ally. But he just like grabs Batman right from the shadows. It's like, they kind of shocked me. Watching this in the theater, everybody was dead silent, in the theater room. And it's like, because it's like one of those moments in the theater, if you watch something and everybody's completely in sync with you, and it's like so focused on the scene because it's so like everybody tell this is like a pivotal moment in a scene. So like as soon as he's entered in this underground cavern and he's fighting Bane, everybody else is quiet, in the scene. So the audience is just as quiet. So they just focus on these two. And it is just like a brilliantly shot film. And like you seen like Batman against Batbroken, and it's like, Bane just wailing on his cowl, cracking it and stuff. So it's like, like he's utter defeat. And he's losing like his business, his, friend and, a father figure, almost pretty much losing his house, and he's losing as Batman. He is like, like he's at his lowest point when he gets to the pit. Now, I understand like Nolan didn't want to do anything about the Lazarus Pits or Bane's Venom stuff. This little mask thing he has supposed to be some kind of apparatus or something like that, some kind of booster or steroid or something like that to like a knockoff Venom thing, but not really Venom. He didn't want all that fantastical stuff, which I get, it still works, but it wouldn't have hurt. You know what I mean? It could just show like these tubes, kind of funnel something green through his, mask or something like that. And we would have got the point or something. He didn't have to have like, tubes protruding from his back or anything like that. He didn't have to do that. But personally, I would have thought, it wouldn't have hurt to like just, have those little tubes on his face, funnel something green through his mouth, and we would have got the point. because we already seen like a scene when they're doing like a final battle between each other, and like Batman damages his mask, and like he's trying to put it together, and it's going crazy, and he's starting punching like a rabid animal, and he's Batman dodges, and Bane starts wailing on this column and is breaking it and stuff, and it's like obviously it's feeding him something to give him more strength. It can't just be just a normal steroid. Steroids don't make people just bust through columns of I would think it's cinder block or something like that, but it's not, definitely not plaster. But when you're in the pit, it's not a normal Lazarus pit like we know from the comics. It's a literal pit, like a prison. And this is another major, probably the biggest major thing that people like to point out, that something like if they had any cons about this film. One being, after Batman escaped from this prison, after he essentially rises and reclaims his himself, like reclaims his control of his fear and doubts, and he finally be able to move on and just grow. Is never explained, because obviously the Lazarus Pit prison is probably very far off. It has to be on some point on the other side of the world, probably East Asia somewhere, not too far from where the League of Shadows usually holds up at. But Bane stopped everything to bring him all the way over there and to come all the way back. And Batman has to come from there to all the way back to Gotham. And it's like you got to take a time bomb, literally, that they have to deal with. And he managed to make it back in time to deal with all that. That is just like very improbable. Okay, I mean, it's like, I want to look this up right now, because there's a little some math and research here, just briefly. Okay, let's say not Hong Kong. That's still like I mean, a good point of interest, like some good Mongol territory. It's gotta be something around like okay, let's say just in general, China, Gotham, New York. Let's go with New York. Flight time. Okay. In general, okay, let's say it's just like just Shanghai, China. Just to pick one, because it's gotta be in East Asia somewhere. But let's go with Shanghai, China. And from Shanghai, China to use Gotham, New York as references, but just put New York, it's 14 hours and 36 minutes. So using that as a point of reference, and given that you got like by the time he gets back to Gotham, they got like a 12-hour time thing, or less than that, on the timer. There's no way. And like, I know a lot of people say, well, because he's Batman, he got like, yeah, but he's not the Flash either. He cannot, make it in time, to deal with that bomb. He doesn't know when Bane acquired it, what the time thing is, until like he talks with like Lucius later. And even then, Lucius doesn't know, because he hasn't been near the bomb in a while, after Talia and Bane acquired it from him. So all that is just like a little kind of, I mean, I know he probably eventually like got a hold of the bat pod, or at least the bat plane, and it probably carried him pretty fast, but he will probably be cutting it very, very close. He also need the time to, clean himself up, acquire like his bat suit again, and he also had to deal with Blake. There's a lot he had to do. Deal with, get a hold of Blake Gordon and Catwoman, and and like getting Blake to, get all the cops from underneath the ground, which, by the way, it was a stupid idea from Gordon to, like, send all the fellow police officers, even off-duty ones, to go underneath there to flood, Bane out of, underground. And it's like, why would you do that? Why would you do that and not leave any other available police officers on the streets to maintain the rest of the order around? You're just leaving yourself open for a takeover. Oh, and I didn't want to forget to mention it, because this scene kind of, like, it always personally bothered me. I don't know about anybody else, but right when Bane was giving his speech, and after he somehow acquired Gordon's little confession letter, or at least resignation letter, explaining the truth about what Harvey Dent did, and how Batman is innocent, and like and then Blake giving him, like, he's giving, I wouldn't say giving him a hard time, but he's kind of like almost chastising him a bit, or at least like questioning, like usually I'm on the side of the young idealistic partner in, like, the buddy cop kind of situation, but dude, like Gordon said, it's like, I have to do certain things so you can keep your hands clean. Like, you wasn't there along with them during the events of Batman Begins and Dark Knight. You didn't have to deal with Scarecrow. I'm pretty sure he was young enough to witness the corruption by all those mobsters. But he also should have been aware about the Joker, even though he probably wasn't involved. He probably was still in the academy at the time and not like a full-fledged officer yet until the events of this movie. But he has no right to chastise Gordon, in my opinion, about what he had to do with this. Gordon had to, play the cards he was dealt with and utilize a vigilante, which on normal circumstances he would not have need to rely on if Gotham wasn't so corrupt to the point where, like, as he put it in the first film, who's there to rat to anyway? It was so infested with crime to the point where you needed somebody outside of law in order to get things done, so we can actually prosecute some of these people and get them off the streets and get them their boots off our necks, essentially, not to put too fine a point on it. But and then he got to know this, like, basically, like, questions his, like, morality or whatever like that. Like, dude, lay off. It's like he had to do crap that on normal circumstances he wouldn't have done so, but he had to play the cards he was dealt with, and by and large it helped the city. And I'm pretty sure he would do it again in a heartbeat, because, like, if you have to go through certain things in the future that compromise your morals a bit, I hope you have a friend like I did. And it's like, oh, it seems your hands are pretty filthy to me, sir. It's like, dude, screw you. Like I said, he wasn't there for any of this stuff. Like, how dare you question Gordon on what he had to do? Like, dude, come on. But anyway, after, it's like another awesome shot where it's like you get all these police officers, coming out in, like, mass, in mass, and then a bunch of criminals that were released and mercenaries, in mass, and Batman's leading the officers while Bane's forces started just running each other in this big old, like, it's kind of like old school army on army fight, like you seen, like, in, like, history books, like before guns were invented, where they just straight up like a fight, and it's like, just a full on brawl, like, for the ages. It's like, and it's like massively shot, and it's like, it just blew my mind. Everybody just like prior, it wasn't not until Avengers Endgame we seen like something so of a massive scale that's outside some kind of history period type of piece with a literal army. Has we seen like something this massive, just these massive armies of cops and criminals running at each other and just like just straight up just having at it. And it wasn't until like Avengers Endgame we get something even bigger than that. But Batman renewed his convictions and just straight up like handle his business with Bane. And then of course you find out like Talia al Ghul revealed herself, saying like because he recalled after hearing her story about she was the child in the pit with the mother who was the daughter of this warlord, that the young mercenary who turns out to be Ra's al Ghul had a relationship with. The warlord was against it. Instead of like executing the mercenary, he chose to give him exile. In exchange, the daughter agreed to go into the pit. Now realizing the girl was with child, turns out to be Talia. Bane, who was in the pit with them, decided to protect this young child, thinking she was the only innocent in here that needed to be protected. But the mother wasn't so lucky. She died. And when Talia grew old enough, she eventually climb out. She was the one other person able to climb out of the pit herself, and then brought back her father, who with his League of Assassins, went to the pit, got Bane out, and proceeded to train him in the League. And then of course we know the events that he became too extreme even for them, so he was excommunicated in lieu of death, because he still he protected his daughter, so he decided not to kill him, just out of still respect for that. He has earned that at least. But it's just like even though Talia still had grievances with her father for exiling Bane, her protector, she still loves him and is angry that Bruce killed him. I'm not sure if she's more so mad that she didn't get the chance to do it herself, or have settled any unresolved issues with her own father, or at least get any type of approval for finally finishing what he started. But I don't know if, because Ra's al Ghul's plan was to bring balance to a particular city that became overindulgent, or like Rome was, or France, or whomever. But he didn't want full on obliteration. He wanted just to bring them to just to their knees, so they can just slowly rebuild up after enough of them have died. This is the extreme part that he probably did not like from Bane, because all full on wiping out, what's the point of that? The point is making sure what's little left they can rebuild and bring it back to the proper balance. It's not that dissimilar to, like, now I'm thinking about, to Thanos and his ideology, as far as like bringing balance by snapping half of the universe away, so that whatever resources left in the universe is enough to go around this point, so we don't end up imploding in ourselves. But like Talia and Bane doesn't like see that. Apparently, they more so want to drag everybody down with them. They didn't rise above it in a way. Of course, Catwoman comes in, kills Bane with the bat pod, saving Bruce's life in the act. And of course, after they chase down Talia, who's trying to get a hold of that bomb to activate it, because Gordon put in like a little gadget given by Batman to neutralize it, just in case if he failed. And eventually Talia died in a car crash. And so Batman, takes the bomb away so it can blow up safely in the Gotham, like, oceans, far away from the city. Never mind the possible radiation and, a blowback, or at least uh, the what you call it, the aftershocks or whatever, that could possibly affect the surrounding area. But never mind that, I guess. But he left a subtle clue to Gordon that he's Bruce Wayne, figuring that he's not gonna probably make it out of this. But he did. And of course, like, Alfred for a while thinking like, all the Waynes are dead now. Then he goes on his trip, sees Bruce at a cafe with Selina, living a happy life, figuring like the time for Batman has ended, at least for him. Now Blake/Robin is taking up the mantle, obviously finding the cave and everything like that. But yeah, I mean, this movie, like I said, is so much good parts in here that kind of outweighs the certain criticism I have for it. But to be honest with you, like I said, in my previous Batman Nolan films, I revisit Begins and The Dark Knight more often than I do Rises. And by and large, it's like, if I'm being honest, up to the point of after Bane gets killed, that's when I feel like I just check out the film. It was like, well, I mean, it's not like the rest of the film is like bad or anything like that, but it's kind of like, it's over for me at that point. Everything up to that point is just like, I'm satisfied. It was a great film. But yeah, I mean, it's like everything about Begins and The Dark Knight, I'm glued to that screen on every scene till the credits. But yeah, it's like, if you have to put it on a low tier, Dark Knight Rises, unfortunately, is slightly the low tier, but it's not bad. It's just like, The Dark Knight, then Batman Begins and Rises. That's how it is in order for a lot of people, me included. But yeah, this movie's pretty good though. I mean, like, mostly because of how Bane's interacted, because like Talia, yeah, she's fine, but and Catwoman, she's fine. It's mostly the focus is on Bane, and just like everything about him is just imposing. You are intimidated. There was like this video where like this this director or like cinematographer critiques, villains in a lot of Batman related films and TV, and like there's more when like Bane's about to kill Daggett, and it's like he that moment he put his hand on his shoulder like this, and his head's just like turned like that. Do you think that gives you power over me? And it's like, it's just the voice, even despite the mechanical sound it comes off, it gets kind of the polar opposite of how Batman's voice is when it's all groggy like this and it's supposed to show you some fear, even though he's doing good. While Bane is more soft and gentle, and he's like, it's like the calm before the storm, when he's going to kill you. And it's just like a great choice in like building up this character who we all know is one of the most dangerous Batman characters in history. And just that subtle hand gesture, and it's like, I'm going to cradle you before I kill you. And it's like literally no fear. There's nothing you can do to me. I am fear. Like I'm so much fear is that I can talk to you so calmly and gently. It's like he was one of those kind of people that don't need to show off any kind of bravado or talk big. They can just, it's kind of like it's like a UFC fighter or any trained fighter in any kind of martial art. And it's like they don't want to like hurt anybody. They're usually the most gentle type of people. And it's like anybody trying to step up to and try to talk big or trying to start something, And those type of people be like, yeah, easy dude, easy dude. I get it. And like, yeah, just calm down, dude. No one wants to get hurt or anything like that. But it's just like, it's those type of people are the most dangerous, usually the most dangerous, because they know full well they're more than capable of breaking somebody in half if they need to. And that's what Bane is to a T. He can talk to you gently before he will literally break you in half. But yeah, like, he's probably the best part, one of the best parts uh in Rises. I kind of wish they would have brought back Liam Neeson as Ra's al Ghul, in all actuality, and just say, like, and just go with the Lazarus Pit, or at least use some kind of mythic methods to, like, recuperate him, and he can finish what he started. Just to have Bane and Liam Neeson, Ra's al Ghul together, and then throw in Talia al Ghul, just to round it out. I mean, personally, it might seem kind of bloated that way, maybe, but it's just like, I think it's more. I think being, having Liam Neeson there, and like, I mean, it's like in usually in the comics and TV show, Talia al Ghul, she's mostly with the League on certain missions and objectives, but there's certain points where she goes against her own father for her beloved Bruce Wayne, and seeing, like, from Bruce's perspective, that her father might have gone too far on certain occasions and just betray him slightly, or at least give Batman a chance to better even the odds, kind of thing. That would probably be a little bit more better. Not trying to rewrite the movie, but I'm just saying, it's like, just have it like a nice bookend. We actually have Ra's al Ghul and Talia in the same scene together, because they usually are hand in hand. But anyway, what do you guys think of The Dark Knight Rises? What are your pros? What are your cons? Leave a like, comment, share, all that stuff. Follow me in the links in the description. Follow me on my Patreon if you want to further support the channel. And I will see you guys next week, where I will go right into the Tim Burton Batman film. So yeah, take care.